Hello. I'd like to invite you to take a look with me at our booklet, Keystone Economic Principles. This booklet is designed to be a quick desktop reference for teachers to enable you to infuse economic concepts into your curriculum. It's a guide, a framework, an overview. I hope that it will enable you to see the broad applicability of economic concepts throughout your curriculum and perhaps even inspire you to go a little deeper and a little further into the study of economics. Before we begin talking about what economics is, let's take a minute and talk about what it isn't. If I say the word economics to you, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Money. You're right. If you said money, or if you thought in your mind money, actually you'd be incorrect, although that is what most people say. No, money is merely the medium of exchange that you can use to exchange your goods and services for something else that you want. For example, teachers many years ago were sometimes paid in terms of lodging, food, maybe a little livestock, maybe some vegetables. But when it came time to exchange that for shoes or a book or a train ticket somewhere, that would be very difficult for them to do. So studying money just helps you study the medium of exchange, but it doesn't really give you the information to make good economic decisions. So what is economics? Well, economics is the study of the allocation of scarce resources among competing interests. Let me say that again. It's the study of the allocation of scarce resources among competing interests. Said another way, it's a framework that we use to identify the resources that we have in our society and to decide how to use them. Who gets what? How much do they get? All those kinds of questions are answered by economics. It's not, how do I use my money? It's, how do I use my resources? And when I say resources, I mean all our resources. We have to develop some skill in identifying all of them. I'm talking about things in our environment, the time that we have, our energy, our skills, our relationships. All of those things enter into a study of economics. Now, there are 9 basic principles that we have identified in our booklet that are sort of the basic building blocks for economics. It's an introductory level idea. We're trying to take a very complex subject and make it accessible to the average person. You do not need to be an economist to recognize the applicability of these ideas in your daily life and in that of your students. You will use this more than you think you will. And actually, the more you use it, the more ways you will find to use it. And it becomes increasingly comfortable for you as you teach your students. So there are many uses for this booklet. And we know that you as teachers are intelligent, resourceful people, but also very busy people. And what we want to do is find a way to facilitate for you the transition into an economic way of thinking, to provide a common language that will enable you to communicate with your students the truths of this discipline. You'll notice that each one of these principles is fairly succinct, but it's full of potential. And you'll find the applications for them at every grade level, from kindergarten through high school. We're going to talk about each one of our principles in order, in a little more depth, but before we do, let me list them for you before we get started. Our first economic principle is we all make choices. Principle number 2 is that all choices have costs. Principle number 3 is that all choices have consequences. Principle number 4 is that the economic systems under which we live influence our choices. Principle number 5 is that incentives produce predictable responses. Principle number 6, do what you do best and trade for the rest. Principle number 7, economic thinking is marginal thinking. Principle number 8 is that the quality and quantity of our resources impact our living standards. And principle number 9, our final one, prices are determined by the market forces of supply and demand and are constantly changing. Now, we want to talk about not only these principles, but a number of concepts that flow from the principles. I'd like for you, as we go through this, to think of the principle as sort of the center of a circle. And along the circumference, we have all of these concepts listed. They are not given in order, so that we're not going deeper and deeper into the concept or into the principle as we go through the concepts. We're relating them back to that center. These are like rays coming off of the center of our circle, and they're simply listed around the periphery. As one very wise teacher said once to me, the biggest part of beginning a journey is getting your shoes on. So now I invite you to put your shoes on and come with me on a trip into economic principles. It will be an exciting journey, and it will be a rewarding journey. Let's begin.